Hey guys, welcome to A Little Help for Our Friends, the podcast for people with loved ones struggling with mental health. Hello, little helpers. So today we have a super exciting guest. I was really excited he agreed to come on, and we're going to return to the topic of narcissism, but we're going to be talking about healing narcissism itself, as well as healing from narcissistic abuse. So, Kibby, can you kind of, before I introduce Jordon, tell us a little bit about how Cool Mind can help in this space?
Yeah, so Cool of Mind, for people who don't know, is our community and program for people with loved ones with mental illness or addiction. So we teach a lot of education about like what is mental illness, what is your loved one struggling with, how do you set healthy boundaries and heal yourself. I'm noticing that a lot of people in the community right now are struggling with being victims of narcissistic abuse. Either they're just kind of realizing it or they've had a recent ex where they feel like, oh my gosh, I was in a relationship with a narcissist and I'm trying to heal from it. So if you notice that your loved one, a partner, or someone close to you has narcissistic traits, and maybe you're experiencing narcissistic abuse, like you're not sure about your reality versus theirs. You keep hiding or swallowing your own needs in the relationship. You feel unseen, unloved. You feel like you're walking on eggshells around their temper or their ego. Just reach out. So you can go to the link in our description, or you go to kulamind.com, KULAMIND.com, and you can reach out to me, book a free call, and we could talk through what you're going through and how I can help.
Hello, little helpers. Today we return with one of our favorite topics, but I think discussed from a different angle um, that I'm really excited about. And to do this, we are bringing on Jordon Monroe. So the topic is narcissism. And Jordon Monroe is a tech entrepreneur turned emotional healing coach, best known for his work helping narcissists recover and reconnect with their hearts. After co-founding Owlet Baby Care and launching over a dozen consumer products, Jordon shifted his focus inward, embarking on a deep personal journey of self-discovery after realizing he lived with narcissistic patterns. So today he runs the Recovering Narcissist, a growing community and coaching program that humanizes narcissism and guides people through genuine transformation using self-awareness, spirituality, and emotional integration. Jordan's mission is to prove that healing is possible and that even narcissism can be met with compassion, honesty, and love. So check him out at healnarcissism.com or Recovering Narcissist on social media. So, welcome, Jordon. I'm really excited to talk to you because we've never gotten to talk to somebody who feels that they have personal experience with this particular disorder. And it's so easy to stigmatize this and to just talk about narcissistic abuse or to talk about narcissism in a wholly negative way. So, I'm really excited for you to come on and have a different kind of conversation.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Could I ask you about your kind of personal journey? So I've been following you on Instagram, listening to a lot of your videos, and I'm really thrilled to talk to you about how you help heal narcissism. Um, but you do this from a place of kind of having a personal understanding of it. So
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I I was like life was great for me. I sold my business in 2021, and for most narcissists it's like they think they got the best mental health in the world. And I was kind of like that because I just was saying like everything's great for me and all the problems are my wife's problems, and she was the one that went to therapy. I was totally fine. And we actually started, or thought I was fine. We started this trip around the world with our family, and everything was going good. And then we got divorced, and our relationship kind of, broke up, uh, imploded, and um, my narcissism got way worse. I was like, well, fine, I'm just going to become so much more rich and powerful, and that'll show her to ever think of not wanting me. Like I was deeply hurt by it,
Yeah.
and I went on this like total ego trip of like building a new business to get, more money and trying to date like as many women as I could, and actually told them I was dating them at the same time. Like I was just like, I'm gonna be solo polyamorous and you can get in line. And I was just honestly on this insane ego trip until I really fell in love with this woman and wanted to start committing to her. And I started to notice my same fights, same patterns that were going on with my ex-wife were showing up here. And I paused and was like, well, I'm not going to mess it up again. I'm going to try and figure this out, but maybe it has something to do with me. And my ex-wife had called me a narcissist after we'd already divorced in kind of an angry fit. And I was like, what is a narcissist? I didn't even know what the word was. And I looked it up and I saw that I'd only checked like 4 of the 6 boxes or something and was like, or whatever I found in that article. And like, I'm not, I mean, I got traits, but I'm not a narcissist. And I just convinced myself I wasn't and just kind of put it away for like a year, which this is really common with narcissists too. And until I kind of hit a similar breaking point with my partner at the time, Kira, and in kind of one fell swoop, just kind of woke up to the fact that no, I'm an actual narcissist. And at that point, it was like a spiral. And this is what they call narcissistic collapse. It's where the illusion of you being this amazing person breaks and you can kind of see through to all the shitty stuff you've been doing and how like the reality of things. And it's uh yeah, it's this scary wake up and I kind of spiraled for a long time. And I looked on the internet and all I found was just a lot of like anger towards narcissists, which I think is very valid and justified because narcissists hurt so many people. But I couldn't find anything that was like helpful or about healing. So I started calling therapists, and every single one that I called said, don't get freaked out about the internet. Like there's kind of an angry story going on there, but a lot of it's not true. And you can heal. Narcissists can heal. And I just remember thinking that's so interesting that there's such a disconnect. And I just started on my own healing journey, and at some point just felt that that was the change I wanted to make, was to like talk about the truth that wasn't being discussed on the internet. And so I just started sharing my story. And I was I had seen enough healing in myself to say I think healing's possible, but it's also kind of a question mark. But I'm going to start documenting my journey. So I documented the journey at the same time was just talking about it, and it was really healing for me to like see my pattern and then go make a video about that pattern, you know, and like, why did narcissists lie? I just lied, and here's why I caught myself doing, and just kind of like broke it down. Um, and yeah, that was kind of the wake up and started beginning the healing process. I did it for about a year and a half. And I would say, you know, fast forwarding to now, I honestly just feel like a different person. I don't think I qualify for NPD today. But I know that structurally, the way my mind is kind of organized, I would still um, go that direction in times of crisis or things like that. It's almost like an alcoholic who hasn't had a drink in 30 years, but they still call themselves an alcoholic because they know that if they do have that drink, they'll go down that route. And, you know, while it is a little bit different, I still notice that, you know, if I'm really hurt, you know, by friends or family or something, I'll notice my mind trying to say how great I am and you know, try to, you know, compensate in that way. But once you're aware of it, it can't really take over as much because you're kind of watching your mind, you know, run those patterns. So, yeah, that's kind of my wake up story and fast forward in a nutshell.
God, I have so many questions. So many.
Sure.
Can you give us an example of the patterns you noticed that your different exes could, like, what you said that they called you narcissist and they were getting through the same fights. Like what was it coming up in your romantic relationships that signaled to someone else like, oh, you might be a narcissist?
My second partner, Kira, never called me a narcissist. Um, and Kira and I are now married, so
No,
that worked
congrats.
out. Yay. Uh, and she never called me narcissist, but she said, you really have this anger problem, you have a really big shame problem, and you have a real empathy problem, which like you don't listen to me, you get defensive instead. And so it's like I was working on those for 6 months before I ever even woke up to narcissism to begin with, but those were similar patterns that I had seen with my ex-wife.
There, so I mean, we just I just graduated my PhD, and I feel like even I'm happy to hear that therapists were telling you, like, it's not true, narcissists can be healed. I feel like I did not receive that message actually. It was still pretty
Sure.
negative.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because in order to be receptive to that kind of diagnosis and all that it entails requires a kind of ability to look inward and accept a bit of an ego destruction
Yeah.
in the name of like being better for others that kind of seems to contradict the diagnosis in the first place.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I'm wondering like how you were able to be receptive to that. And then I like want to stick on you at first and then talk about your clients later, but
Sure.
I'm also so curious about how you experience that receptivity with your clients or help them get to that place.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just like, I kind of hit that rock bottom and was looking at seeing the pattern show up again was just such a slap in the face, honestly. And um I blame so much on my ex. Like she did all these things, and then to see it, and Kira is honestly one of those kindest humans I've ever met, and to see my pattern playing out in my mind saying she's the worst. I'm like, wait a minute, she's literally the kindest person ever. Like this doesn't really make sense.
Can you give us an
Um,
example of that where your mind was like, where she did something and you're like, oh,
oh, I was convinced after my divorce, I was convinced every woman is the most manipulative thing in the world. That they don't really care. They're
mm,
just trying to manipulate you, and so Kira would do something kind, and I would think, what's her angle? Like, what's she
Uh-huh.
trying to do? Or really, anytime my shame got touched, instead of thinking, oh, I messed up or I'm a problem, I'd go, she's doing this to me, or she's only, whatever. So
Yeah.
a lot of it was around thinking people were manipulative.
that's
Oh,
interesting. Oof. I totally hear what you're saying with the negative view of narcissists. I mean, I'm dabbling into the social media world now, and
yeah,
it is just crazy to see the one note that's like, here's how to tell if, someone's a narcissist and you should cut them out and probably never speak to them again and blah, 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 right? Like,
yeah,
let's pick out the bad guy.
yeah,
And yet, the things that you just said of anger and shame and wanting to not trusting someone else's intentions, even just like thinking, oh, I'm great when I get hurt. Those don't sound like pretty normal things. And we also
yeah,
know that there's a lot of narcissism in our culture. So, how
yeah,
do you deal with like a lot of these traits are normal
sure.
and there's so much hatred for them now?
Yeah, absolutely. How do I deal with that?
Yeah, how do you think about that? Like seeing the internet being like, this is the equivalent of an evil person. And that,
Yeah,
and like when you're saying like anger, ooh, a lot of people struggle with anger these days.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the internet's very justified in um the anger that is pointed towards narcissists. Like I've had narcissists even in my life. Like every narcissist actually understands narcissistic abuse once they wake up to what that is. Most of them just called it their childhood. Like they just called that they just thought that was just normal, ways of relating. Um but I feel that's so justified. Like to be completely constantly gaslit by somebody, to like constantly be questioning yourself, and to have to, if you've ever been with a narcissist who is so firm on their thought process about something, about why this is happening, or whatever, and you just literally have to go, fine, I'll just dissolve myself into your delusion that you have here. I will just deny myself and do whatever you want because I'm tired of fighting. And when someone does that, they'll do it just to get through so they're not fighting forever. Because a narcissist will not let it go. Because if they bend on that thing, what it means about them is too destructive to the psyche. So they will
Yeah.
not, right? They're just like, And so the other person is always denying themselves or self-abandoning. And it's painful. It sucks, The handful of times that I've had to do it with friends and things, it's like, gosh, I hate this. And so to imagine someone living in that constantly, it's like they're so justified in that anger. I just don't think that anger is really serving them. And so, long term, I'd love to see a switch in that. But getting back to your question, like, what do I think about that? I think that if you actually look at Google Trends and you look at the word narcissist, in the last 5 years, it's done this. It's actually really blew up. And I think that we're all just kind of waking up to this pattern, and we're seeing it in humans, and we're just noticing it. I think it's always been there. But and just like anything that becomes new on the scene, we freak out and villainize it at first when we don't fully understand it. Think about like homosexuals in the 1950s, or think about like alcoholism in the early days. Thought these people were possessed by demons and there was nothing to do about them. Like the insane ways that an alcoholic acts is not too different from a narcissist. But today we can look at it and say they're sick. This comes from, history of neglect and abuse in their families. And like, because we can see also the patterns, like a fuller understanding of it, we can have more compassion for it. And I think that that's all we're lacking right now is the full understanding of this condition. So,
So going back to receptivity, there you were kind of saying like I was dating this wonderful woman. She was so
yeah.
incredibly kind, and I was noticing these same patterns emerge. Was it just that the logic was just staring you in the face to such a degree that you had to confront it, or was it fear of losing her, or like what
Mhm.
what do you think got in that allowed you? Because you were just describing so so vividly patterns that I've lived through, right?
Mm,
Where I've
I'm sorry.
felt crazy and I'm like, why can't we just let go of this
Yeah.
argument? Like
Yeah.
why can't you shift your thinking in any little way? And now it's not even about agree to disagree. Now it's I have to agree with you, right? Those lengths, like going to those lengths to keep up a construction, really illustrate how crucial it is to not look inward and not
Yeah.
experience shame, but you were able to do it. So I'm
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people do it. I mean, I'm not the only one. I think I'm just the only one who's talking about it on the internet.
Yeah.
You go into Reddit, there's 50,000 some odd, narcissists in Reddit that are all self-aware. I've met with
Okay.
hundreds on my side as well. Like this does happen. It's not completely impossible. It's just like who's gonna talk about that, you know,
Right.
f- to anyone. Um, but so for me, it was like I already knew I had shame problem, an empathy problem, and an anger problem. So I already like knew that this was the thing. And so when I was circling back on the narcissism question in that kind of moment, um, I was like, I just looked at it different. I was like, yes, yes, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do all those things. Okay, let me look
Mm.
at this. And I think that happens a lot. I've got there's this narcissism. There's something called the narcissism spectrum scale, and I can't remember which university created it or a set of researchers, but it's a really great view of narcissism on a scale. And I send people to that all the time. I say, go find out where you sit on the spectrum. And a lot of narcissists wake up that way. And they take the quiz and go, I guess this is me. Like, help me understand why. And um, I think that a hardcore narcissist, so even in the scale itself, the 9 and 10, like the highest level narcissists, cannot be diagnosed using that scale because their narcissism will not even let them take the survey correctly. Like
Yeah.
it will block them from, convince themselves that they are none of those things, but there's still a lot of people who are not that high on the spectrum, but still like a 7 and an 8 will struggle in their relationships forever. Like they'll go through like 5 marriages, and even people on the internet who are, being told or being called narcissists, they might not be a 9 or 10, but they could be a 7 and 8 and still be incredibly difficult to be with, you
Mm.
know. So
Mm.
there's a lot of people I think who are able to look at it, and I think if today we change the concept of narcissism, if it wasn't this like evil, horrible human, I think a lot more people would wake up to it, which is a big part of my mission, is
Yeah.
to change that viewpoint because then more people can wake up, then less people are getting abused, less harm is happening, right? So if
Yeah.
we as a society got together and said, let's
Mm.
look at this a little bit differently, like we could remove a lot of pain and suffering that's going on in the world.
I mean, it is talked about as if it's synonymous with being a bad person. So if you are supposed
Yeah.
to accept that label, it's kind of like, oh, I'm an
Yeah.
irredeemable
Yeah,
monster.
my condition literally doesn't allow me to accept that, It's
Yeah.
so such a catch-22 we're stuck in.
My
So,
God, I have because we are so we specialize in personality disorders and we love
mm,
talking about it. And even we put something out on social media that was just like we had a conversation about can narcissists actually love their children, and we
Mm,
said like, yeah, it's just going to
mhm.
look and feel differently. And the amount of hate comments I got, they were like, how dare you say this? Like you are
Yeah,
putting people in danger. And I was like,
yeah,
what a one note.
yeah,
So I appreciate changing the conversation. But I'm
yeah,
curious, as you told the story starting the being an entrepreneur.
yeah.
Can you bring us back before that? Like how did these traits show up in your life? Like you know, you're talking about how it might have been influenced by early experiences, and just like there's a lot of narcissists in tech,
Yeah.
and for
Oh yeah.
good reason. It's a good outlet for it. It's a good like place for it. Can you talk about like the before times before you were
Sure.
like, uh-oh, this is a problem?
Sure. Well, let's back up a second and say, what causes narcissism. So 90% of the time, research shows that it's from uh, neglect and abuse. And so at a young age, this child, you know, inherits this viewpoint that they themselves are not okay the way that they are, that something's wrong with them. And they come to believe that if they can be the mask version of themselves, that they can be lovable, they can be safe, they can be all these things. And so tech is really a magnet for narcissists, for people who, in their mask, the version of them that could be lovable is a high performing, successful, wealthy person. Um, that mask is, or that will draw people in because tech is something that you literally anyone who's crazy enough to go start a business and go get money from investors can do it, you know? And so it's like it's just a magnet, I think, for people. And I think that there's certain industries that definitely attract, more narcissists because of the amount of power and wealth that exists in those industries. So, one, well, no, that's a little bit off topic, but so why was I drawn to it? Well, because I thought that was what I needed to be, essentially. That like the hyper successful, like I was like student body president in school. I was like played sports. I did all the things that got the attention that I needed. And I was always hungry for more. It's another thing really common on entrepreneurs. They can go make $100 million and then a year later they're back starting another business because they're like, I guess I need 300 million to be happy. Like they get back on the carousel because the truth is nothing can fill that void. Nothing can fill that hole of feeling like you're not enough. And so, yeah, I was always drawn to things that made me look good on paper. So I did sales in college, like a door-to-door sales, and I was really good at it. I just like was it tickled this part of my brain of like making money and performing and being better than other people in the office. And um, I was also drawn to this. So then I was again drawn to building a business because, same reasons. So yeah,
Hmm. Did you come from parents who really expected high achievement?
yeah. Yeah, they rewarded it. It was like if I was good at church, if I was good at performance, like my mom had like a singing group, so I like did a lot of singing as a kid and through high school. And if I did well with money, like those are like I got a lot of attention, for doing those things.
Did it ever cause problems earlier? I mean, did the anger show up before and the shame show up before, or was it just like, yeah, you were killing it, so keep going?
Everything was
Or
good. Honestly, like no, like if I got touched on certain subjects, yes, like I would spark and be angry if you really touched my shame. But I think my ex-wife knew how to kind of avoid that and just make sure that never really got pricked. But for the most part, it was like a slow death. Like she just slowly was like not being seen because the truth is like narcissists are sitting there. I was like focused on my business and the thing that would make me great and I would do like loving acts, but they were like a show. It was like something I had to, but that's what I thought it was. That's what I thought love was, is like you go do this like fancy thing and you make sure that they see you do it and that's love. But when I was at the gas station, I never got her favorite candy. I didn't remember what her favorite candy was. When we were when I was out doing something, I never thought, does she want me to pick up something for her while I'm gone? I was literally just stuck in me world and I thought it was ADHD, and that's what we would just always fight about was my ADHD. And I'd say, I'm sorry, I'm just ADHD. What do you want me to do? Like I can't.
Yeah.
change this. And so I think she just felt honestly really unloved and unseen.
Mm.
Did you
Yeah.
have a sense of like you talk about having my shame touched, like if somebody touched my shame. Did you
Yeah.
have a sense of what that was, like a particular insecurity, or was it more this amorphous sense of just if I'm criticized, then the kind of inner sphere, that sort of defective me will be seen. And so it was just any criticism, any kind of
No,
rejection would
n
hit it.
no, so I didn't know about if that it was my shame that was getting pricked. I just would
Mhm.
get angry and I'd be like, I don't know, I don't know what happened there. Or my brain would come up with some excuse like, no, it's because you did this or because, I honestly was just so blind to it. It wasn't until I started my healing journey that I started to like label my shame. I read Brene Brown
Mm.
and was like, oh, I created the list of like, what am I actually ashamed of? And then starting to see the pattern of like, oh, those are the moments that trigger me. That's crazy. I was actually someone who would make fun of myself all the time. Like I was like in business, I'd say, I eat criticism for breakfast is literally what I told every employee. I was like, criticize me, like tell me what I need. But I could get criticized up and down, left and right, as long as you didn't hit making me feel shame because of being lazy, for being stupid, like because of my ADHD, for being weak. Um, there's like those handful of things. If you hit those, I would, oof, prick up. But almost never at work, only in the home.
Mm.
Yeah, or in friendships, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
How do you experience or explain the empathy deficit? Is it that
Yeah,
because it seems like it's come back online for you.
yeah,
Because I think a lot of questions around neuroscience, for instance, are, right, is this like a developmental or like a physiological empathy deficit, or maybe is it something that's buried?
yeah,
Because in order to have empathy, then you would have to see other people's perspectives and then understand that you're not perfect.
yeah,
So I'm
totally.
wondering how you experience it or explain it.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I see it in myself and in my clients is that it's not that narcissists don't have empathy, it's that we have really strong shields
Hmm.
against empathy, against letting in someone else's pain. Um, on one side, we're very self-absorbed because it's like we got the message at a young age that no one's going to take care of us. We had to take care of ourselves. And so that's the part of narcissist staring into the mirror, always focused on himself. And so it actually takes a level of safety to put away the mirror to look at someone else and say, what do you need? How can I help you today? Right? So I think that's one aspect, the safety, the feeling like able and capable. And then the other is honestly, like I think at a young age, most narcissists put up those guards and just like never let them down, never let somebody in all the way, or never like made it a point to look at someone's pain. Because if that's how you lived your whole life, your whole family did that. Like you show up at home and you had a hard day, and everyone says, your parents go, quit being so loud, like you're interrupting me. And then your siblings go, you're such a baby. Like you didn't learn to open up the soft and squishy parts to be seen. And you just thought, I'm no one does that. We don't do that. I don't do that. People don't do that for me. I don't do that for others. And so something I really work on with narcissist clients is there's the quote from Rumi, which is the you have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. And we really actually have like a focus on trying to have that heartbreaking moment where I try to have them visualize or have conversations with their partner where they can feel their partner's pain. Like we do a meditation, they open their heart, like we do this long sort of like, you're safe, you can do this. And then we have their partner talk about something that has nothing to do with them, won't incur shame, won't make them feel bad, something that's hurting in them. And they, for the first time, will go, ow, ow, that hurts. Like, and that is like a first kind of experience for most narcissists to be able to feel someone else's pain. And yeah, they have to keep like they keep breaking it open. And I've had people call me and be like clients, like, ow, this hurts so bad. Like I'm I can't believe this is like what a lived experience could be like, to actually let people's pain in all the time. And it's really beautiful to watch people change, because as the empathy opens up, then they are able to um, show up for the partner. So if I felt, so for example, I felt bad when I hurt my ex-wife for not getting the Sour Patch Kids at the gas station for her. If I actually for the first time went, ow, that hurt, it wires my brain to go, I don't want her to feel, because I felt her pain and I don't want her to feel it again. Just like
Right.
if I put my hand on a stove, wires my brain to say, don't touch stoves anymore, and I only do it once and it never hurts again. So similarly, once you start opening your heart to feeling the pain that you caused or just their pain in general, you start wanting them to not feel pain. You start going, what can I do to help you? What can I, how can I be a better partner? And it's really amazing to watch these narcissists go from, I've never thought of how I could help my wife or my husband, and have them go, I realized how hard this is for them and I just started helping them and I started doing it. And like watching them build empathy and build connection with their partner in that way is truly like a magical thing that I get to witness and help people through. And even in myself was really magical. Like I remember like waking up and thinking, oh, Kira, she was feeling sick last night. I wonder if she's okay. Let me like sneak out of bed and go do this and take care of this so she can sleep in. And afterwards was like, I've never had that thought cross my mind before. I've never sat and been like, what can I do for her? And just wake up in the morning and think, me, what do I need? And yeah, it truly is a change in our mind and our body to that I think every narcissist can do. It's not impossible. It's just we didn't know how to do it.
Mm. That's so interesting. I love that. I love hearing that empathy can be learned and grown, and there's a block. I think some people are like, "Oh, no, no empathy. They don't even care." It's like there's something about the empathy that might be threatening.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering too, like I have the urge to be like, "Oh, that sounds normal," but if you're how do you, when you start to, see new clients or hear people who say, "Do I have narcissism?" Like, what would be the way that you recognize signs of narcissism versus all the other feelings and struggles that you mentioned, which is like feeling angry when you get criticized, feeling like you need to achieve, um, like thinking that you're the best, right? Like, how do you know that they're not just like
Something
I
else.
think what I'm asking it. I
Yeah.
think what I'm asking is like lately, especially because men's mental health isn't great. The
Yeah.
more I learn about it, the more it looks depression looks like anger and shame and
Yeah.
the self-focus, right? When you're
Yeah.
upset. So how can you tell when someone is like, oh, they have narcissistic personality disorder versus like they're struggling with shame, like the rest
Yeah.
of human beings would these
Yeah.
days?
Totally. Honestly, I don't know that I can tell. Like sometimes it's like, I don't know, there's like a pattern recognition that I've started to tell. But honestly, I just say go take the narcissism spectrum scale and tell me what your score was and then we'll talk. If you don't score high on that, I don't know what you got, but probably not good for me to talk to you. So yeah, but I mean, what I notice is like this, there are there's phases too, like early stages of a narcissist waking up, a lot of times like, am I a narcissist? I don't think I'm a narcissist. Like I actually don't like, they really struggle taking on that word. And they want to say how everything they're doing is totally normal. And I honestly trust their partner a lot of times. It's like, well, if the partner doesn't feel safe, if they never feel heard, if they always feel that you're defensive, if you're acting angry and doing all these things, and it's like, man, like that that's worth, taking a look at, but they really struggle with it in the early days to own that title. But
Yeah, I would love to hear about your process. I went into my program initially wanting to treat narcissism, and
mm,
there wasn't exactly any training on it. So,
yeah,
um, this is a little bit of me getting
sure,
a workshop from you.
sure,
So,
sure. Yeah, we
thank
can
you.
talk about it. Yeah.
What are like initial sessions like? How does it work?
Yeah, I think that if I had to sum up what a narcissist has to go through in order to heal, it's like in two phases. So phase one is relieving the shame and pain that is kind of causing all the dysfunction to begin with. Like, like imagine that narcissism is like if I injure my arm and swelling pops up. The swelling is the narcissism that's just protecting the overall wound. And
Mm.
so the first part is to learn to love themselves and to learn to try and get at the wound a little bit. Some of them have to process like trauma. They have to like move through that stuff. Some of them have to just come to realize that the mask is keeping them sick, and actually accepting the true aspects of themselves is what starts to relieve shame, because they just start to own themselves. Like, I'm okay being sensitive and needing a rest and all these things, right? And so that's, I think, phase one. And then phase two is learning how to love other people. So the second half of the 13-week program that I work with people is learning devotional love, which is love that has no expectation in return, that's not performative, that's not transactional. And so we start halfway through saying, let's focus on trying to love. And then we spend the rest of it removing the barriers to love, which is another Rumi quote that I love, which is, you don't have to learn love. You just have to learn what's blocking you from love. And so we work on, trust and humility and vulnerability and these things that are actually blocking them from experiencing that connection. So that's all of it in a nutshell.
Cool. Do you do that virtually or in person, or how do you like to work?
Yeah, so I have a program that I put them through. It's 13 weeks, and each week is like a really in-depth focus on something, and it'd be half and half, like I was telling you, relieving the shame and that self-acceptance, and then so learning to love yourself and then learning to love others would be kind of the two halves of it. And I actually have, if they work with me, they have to do like, it's like a part-time job. I'm like, you're going to spend an hour and an hour and a half doing homework every night. A lot of his journal entries and introspection that they then pop into ChatGPT, and it spits back out a really powerful reflection for them. And then they go deeper with an activity where they actually go do something with their partner, kind of like a cognitive behavioral therapy. We're actually like doing a thing to start to rewire the brain in self-acceptance and then love. So
What kinds of assignments might these be? Like what kind of activities?
one that's really cool that I love to do
Yeah.
is authenticity. So we spend a week focusing on authenticity, and the whole week the journal entries are about what parts of you did your parents not accept? What parts of you did you love to do as a kid but you don't do anymore? What parts of you did you kind of have to put away because parents or your family system didn't allow for that? And they put all these like big journals. I tell them, put as much as you can in, because you'll get a really cool output when you get out from ChatGPT. And I give them a prompt, and they put these massive journal entries in. It spits back out the lost self and all the masks that they've been wearing to keep the lost self hidden. And it's really wild, because I tell them that your authentic self is a version of you you've never actually met.
Mm.
It's a version of you put away a long time ago. And they all say this. They're like, that feels like me, but also like it feels really far away, or it feels like maybe that itself is a mask. Like, they truly don't know themselves, and they have to come back home to for me, it was my sensitivity. Like, even on this call, I've gotten emotional a few times, just thinking about like my ex-wife, or just whatever. And I was like a deeply sensitive kid that I completely hid that, because I couldn't be weak, I couldn't be those things. And when I've kind of brought that home, it's really cleared up the shame of feeling like something's wrong with me constantly, and constantly have to wear masks. Um, and so they get this big spit out of the however many things that have been lost, and then they start working on how do I reclaim this? How do I start to, bring this back home to myself? Which can be scary for them. I mean, there's a reason they put on the mask to begin with. So
This just sounds like a program I want to do. I'm like, I want to
let's
know like
go.
what parts of me should, you know?
It is fun. I mean, you're right, Dr. Kibbe, when you say that like these are all very normal things. And that's what's interesting, is like we can all relate to wearing a bit of a mask or needing to be something else. It's just narcissists kind of had to do it on a really intense level, so much so that they've like hid the truth from themselves, you know? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go,
Do
sorry.
you feel like there is I mean, we've talked about that they on this podcast before, that there are different types of narcissists. There's like vulnerable and grandiose and malignant, or
yeah.
uh, just in general, when you think of working with someone, are there types of narcissism or stages that they're in that you're like, this is not going to go well?
Hmm.
But there are like I guess I'm voicing the question that people have like are there some narcissists that just can't heal?
Yeah, I would say the narcissists who can't heal are the ones who don't ever come to me. So I have a bias to people who come, people
Makes
who are
sense.
saying they want something. So there's probably a huge swath of people that I'm not privy to seeing because they're not they're not trying.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just gonna say I don't know on that. But whether they're grandiose or covert is not a problem for like they're just different. They're two sides of the same coin. It's just one side of the coin showing, but they have the same holistic issue kind of at hand. Um, and what was I gonna say? The only people that I struggle with are or who I see struggle are people who are not sure if they're really a narcissist and they're just doing it because their wife or husband kind of got them over there. And I've seen people performatively heal. I've seen them like, go down this route of and I can now smell it. I can now kind of see it and I just kind of filter for it before they come in. Um, but yeah.
How can you tell if someone's going to perform healing? How do you tell?
Well, it's like if they're only there because the partner told them to, and if they don't do any of
Mm,
the homework assignment, and
right.
um, if they're actually not asking questions or trying to be better, they're just telling you how great they are or how great they're doing at their healing. It's like those are all pretty telltale signs.
Mm,
I was just in Africa for 5 weeks, and it's interesting when I travel because I think when I'm home and I'm thinking about travel, I'm like, it's this amazing thing. And then after I do it, I'm going to be an even more amazing person. I come from like a high achieving family also,
Oh, great.
where I just feel like I have to like be more and more like awesome in all of these different ways. And then I'm in the
Yeah.
travel and I'm like, this is stressful and lonely and boring sometimes and hard. And like, I
Yeah.
think part of why I'm doing like most of why I'm doing it is I want to see things and everything, but part of why I'm doing it is because I feel like part like my meaning or purpose in life is like experiencing as much as possible and be like I don't know, like having more and more awesome experiences. And then I kind of had this moment in Africa where I was like, what if I have to stop swimming? Like, what if I have to stop traveling and just sort of be alone? And you kind of mentioned purpose with narcissism before, of this sense of like, you always have to level up, you always have to
Yeah.
get more and more money. It's never enough. And I guess I'm wondering how you help them regain a different kind of purpose,
Yeah.
what that looks like for your clients.
for
I think it.
context, both of
Yeah.
us are have narcissistic traits, but in different domains. Like I'm the school person, and Jacqueline's the life person.
Yeah, totally. I think it comes down to finding what that authentic self is and nourishing that. Like narcissists are really good. I think a lot of people are really good at nourishing the mask, like doing the things that we think we need to do to get love. But like true nourishment of your true self feels it's fulfilling. It's like when you eat a steak dinner and you're just like, I'm full. There's no dopamine scratching at something else when you feel, fulfilled. And when we are eating candy and seeking that's the seeking the dopamine hit of the the what the mask wants, what we think we should be doing, and that never fulfills us because it's like, you go to the zoo and you see a cheetah like just so depressed, or the polar bear, like same thing, they're so sad, and it's because they're not fulfilling their genetic expression. They're not being what they're here to be, and you we do that to ourselves. We put ourselves in a cage of our own beliefs on who we should be, and then we wonder why we're depressed all day. It's because we're not fulfilling the our unique genetic expression in the world, right? Our authenticity, our dharma, as the Hindus would say, right?
Mm.
So
It's like an addiction.
yeah, yeah,
Where do you feel like you're mentioning sensitivity? What are other things that fulfill you now versus before finding your authentic self and getting that
yeah,
real meal instead of candy?
yeah. Um, One is just creative expression. So like my dad used to say, never be a designer. Never do a job that you would do for fun. That's just, creative work is like not work, basically. And so I was like, got it, sure. I started a business and did all the external, growth things. And it's been more recently that I've just really tapped into my creative side. And so, just like I love designing a great video or creating, like designing my office to look really, really cool and have like lights and, fun things like that. Like that's very, very nourishing for me. Um,
Mm.
yeah, just
Well,
one example,
same.
but what?
No.
I said same.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to just briefly give some time to, I know your wife is also, she's also now coaching, right? But she's
Yeah.
doing it for the other side of the script of the empath.
Uh-huh.
I was
Yeah.
wondering, I mean, I know she's not here, but if you just wanted to say something about that, because that's such an interesting pairing of like
Yeah.
you helping to heal the narcissist and her helping to heal the empath. And like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Kira is amazing. Like, I honestly, like, I couldn't have done anything without her. She's the most intuitive, intelligent. She's a RTT therapist, so hypnotherapy. And she's just so good. But, yeah, I mean, she started waking up to her own toxic patterns, her patterns of self-abandoning, right? And the truth that I think is really hard for people to swallow is that it takes two people to be in a toxic relationship. And yes, the narcissist is the one who is the bull who is like pushing things in a certain direction, but it's the partner of that narcissist who stuck with that person for years and called it love.
hmm
I mean, both people are at a certain amount of fault. And both people are just operating childhood patterns. So it's like we're not going to blame either of them and say either is worse than the other. Um, well, I mean, narcissist definitely hurts a lot more. I'm sorry for that statement, but I think that they are both participating in this. And so what Kira is, she kind of woke up to her self-abandonment. She woke up to the fact that she was basically saying she was giving me the permit every single day to go act this way and do these things. And so when our healing really started when she woke up and she started saying, I'm not going to self-abandon anymore.
hmm
And I'm not going to soothe his insecurities and I'm not going to dance around and walk on eggshells around him. And that it's like throwing a kid into water and then they had to swim. It was like that forced me into, whoa, I actually am so dysregulated all the time. And when she's not dancing around or trying to soothe or take care of that, I actually got a lot going on here. And so we think it's just as important to heal the loved one of a narcissist because the current story of saying just leave them and get out of that narcissistic relationship is honestly not very helpful, because they are drawn to narcissistic people for a reason. And what happens is they will exit one narcissist, a grandiose, and then go find themselves with the opposite version of the same narcissist as a covert,
I
right? And
did
they'll
that.
just be with five narcissists over there. Jacqueline's laughing too hard because is there something personal there?
Oh yeah, I went straight from a grandiose to a covert slash grandiose. I think he kind of went
Yeah,
back and forth.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I, I,
yeah,
I fell for him in part because at first he seemed like he was the opposite to the first one, but then I found myself
yeah,
in the same.
yeah, yeah. And so like our message is like, hey, you could leave, but it might take 2 years to heal from that relationship, and then you'll have a whole bunch of trauma from the pain of that, and then you'll start dating someone else, and you won't recognize that they're a narcissist until 2 years later. So you can go 5 years and then be in the exact same spot, or you can stay here and try to heal as long as you're in a safe environment, like it's safe, like they're not being abusive, physically abusive, or anything like that, right? And
Yeah.
that's where we just kind of invite because that relationship will force both of you to heal your patterns. And if at least you stay in the relationship and focus on your healing, you'll get to the end of it. And if they don't heal, well, great. You exited and you're healed and you'll go find, a healthy dynamic somewhere. But if you just keep exiting and exiting and exiting, you'll be like a lot of the people that were in our free support group where we saw, like, I'm on my fifth narcissist. I'm on my third narcissist. It's like, yeah, the statistical chance of somebody, finding a narcissist 5 times is like 1 in 10,000. Like that's not, that's happening for a reason. They're drawn to it.
Well, I definitely want to talk to Kira because it seems like we're doing similar things. I mean, like
Yeah,
I'm doing a lot of work with narcissistic abuse and healing from that.
I love
But I
that.
have a question about that.
Sure.
Something that I struggle with when
Mhm.
talking to a loved one of a narcissist is a lot of the situation, not all of them, but not all, some of the situations are abusive, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
narcissist, like the anger can get violent or, really demeaning and, it's abusive situation a lot of
Yeah.
time with the domestic violence situations. I have a really hard time since I'm trying to teach them skills about how to like heal from that. I'm, you know, heal from that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time saying there's something that you do to co-create this abusive dynamic, right? That feels
Yeah.
like blaming. And
Yeah,
I think that's
totally.
why the internet loves to just say, just it's not your fault at all, just leave. It's
Yeah.
really hard to say there are things you could do to help your situation, because that also means you are like enabling it, allowing it to happen. Oh, what do you do
Yeah.
with that?
That's so hard because you don't want it to say that, well, because you enabled it, you can't have any pain, right? Like the
Right.
truth is they've been
Or
through
it's your
intense,
fault, right?
intense amounts of pain being with a narcissist. And so, yeah, that's a really hard one to thread. I think Kira's able to do it really well because she was that person. So for her to say, I was self-abandoning, and she's just saying, this is my story, so people can see themselves in her, and it's a lot easier for them to go, yeah, I'm doing that. Okay. So when she works with loved ones of narcissists, she's just really helping them like take back their power. And you can do it in an empowering way, I think, too. And that's the message that she really tries
Mm,
to embody.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you just speak real quick? We're gonna let you go soon. But
Yeah.
how did she stick up for her? How would she approach you when she had decided that it was time to stop self-abandoning? Because I could see, in my situation, I would try to speak up for myself, and then I would get bulldozed.
Yeah.
And I would just be, as you said, so much of the time it's just like, "Fine, let's stop fighting." And of
Yeah.
course, me allowing myself to get bulldozed and still not leave
Yeah.
was inviting it to happen again. But I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you could kind of give an example of like a better way to go about it.
Yeah. How she did it. Yeah,
Mm.
like one thing she did when we were calm and not in a fight, she would say, "You know what? What I need is that I need you to listen with your heart and to not be defensive when I'm trying to say something that's hurting me." And this is like stereotypical hard thing, dynamic with the narcissist. And I was like, "You're right. I should be able to listen. I'll do that." And she's like, "Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. If you're ever being defensive, I'm going to stop the conversation. I'm not going to keep going until you're ready to open your heart and listen." And I was like, "Sure, boo, that'll be easy." And like, turns out that was like the hardest thing in the world. She'd be like, "You're being defensive." And I'm like, "No, no,
No, I'm not.
like bite my tongue and be like, sometimes I'd throw a fit, and she just held it and was like, "No, I'm going to go over here." And that is extremely painful for a loved one of a narcissist to do because you are risking disconnection with that person. You're right. Like you're risking that fear of abandonment comes up and they go, so for them to do that, that's really hard. But they have to go learn how to nourish themselves, how to go and like, cool, he's doing a thing. I'm gonna go over here and nourish myself. I'm gonna go do what makes me feel content. I'm gonna go talk to my girlfriends. I'm gonna go paint. I'm gonna do, whatever it is that I need so that my cup is now full. So when it's time to re-engage, I'm coming from a full place. I'm coming from like I'm taken care of and I can like navigate this. So that was one she was really hard. There's quite a few that she was just like not going to engage. But it's a boundary is something you place not to control another person, but to um, control, like keep your energy inside, not leaking out, right? So that's having being really good at boundaries and doing it as a means to keep the energy in and keep you kind of sustained and thriving, is the way.
Awesome. Kibby,
Yeah.
any last
You're
questions?
lucky. I mean, I'm just like you're lucky to have found her. It sounds like a
I'm
wonderful person,
beyond
and
lucky. Luck doesn't even begin to describe it. She really is amazing. So,
I hope you someday do a workshop for therapists because
yeah,
it'd
I
be
really
super
want to. Yeah, I actually
but
had two narcissists who were therapists and graduated from my program, and they're gonna start taking some clients as well because
fun.
there's a lot, and so I'd love to do that, or even just kind of give therapists a different viewpoint too, and like some tools that they could use. So, yeah, that's something I'd love to do actually. So,
Cool. Well,
is there anything else you want to plug or share with the audience, like
yeah, I mean,
the
I
name
think
of
that
your program or how to find you?
this is probably drawing people in who are interested in narcissism because they think they have a client, a partner who is a narcissist. And the one I think important message I just really want to share is that their biggest fear is to shake up the relationship and to cause problems if they speak up or start taking back their energy. And the truth is, a narcissist will never wake up unless the loved one does something. I've never, in the year and a half I've been doing this, hundreds of narcissists I've talked to, they always wake up when their partner is fed up and when their partner is done, like done, done, done. And
Mm.
my invitation is to say, instead of waiting a year or 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 and then finally pulling out because the relationship has sucked you dry and you have like no heart left in it, standing up for yourself now and is what's going to kind of kick off the levels of healing in both of you. And so them standing up, and I think that's something we really try to teach them is like, tools and ways to do it. Because that is the most helpful thing you can do for, if you want to keep your relationship, if you want to have a loving, thriving relationship and keep your kids, in the family and not be divorced and all that, like it starts with you. And I know that's unfortunate. Like it sucks to be married to a narcissist, to have someone with a personality disorder, but it's like, it's just the situation you're in. And, um, my, the last thing I want to do is inspire someone to stay in a horrible relationship and never change anything. For them to say,
Mm.
"Oh, he'll wake up one day, he'll change one day." He won't, unless um, the loved one does something. Unless the partner says, "I'm done. I'm going to." And we say there's all sorts of ways they can withdraw their energy, but it's like you don't just have to jump to divorce or separation. It's like, hey, I'm not going to go on dates with you anymore because you don't treat me well. You yell, you whatever. I'm not going to cook you meals anymore. I'm not going to sleep in the same bedroom as you anymore. Like there's so many ways to start to say, I'm not happy with how things are and we need to change, because a narcissist won't wake up to it unless you do something like that. We convince ourselves everything's great, we're great partners, everything's fantastic. And it's not until they say, you're sleeping in the basement, that they kind of start to go, whoa, what? You're not happy? And so, yeah, that's just, I think, so important. And I just hope I can inspire some people to do that, because narcissists need that to be woken up. And if anyone is going to try and go down this road of healing inside the relationship, then you have to kind of kick off things correctly. So if you're interested about that, Kira's on my Instagram. You can find her. She's Recovering Empaths. And then you can find me at healnarcissism.com if anyone has narcissistic tendencies or is open to changing. I've got a lot of awesome people in there who have changed their lives, and we're inspiring more people to do it. So, yeah,
Amazing. Well, this
totally.
is so interesting. So thank you so much for coming on. I was
Yeah.
really glad you agreed to. And little helpers, if you could feed our narcissistic supply and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we won't throw a tantrum. So we'll see you next week. By accessing this podcast, I acknowledge that the hosts of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast and any and all content or services available on or through this podcast are provided for general, non-commercial informational purposes only and do not constitute the practice of medical or any other professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and should not be considered or used as a substitute for the independent professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment of a duly licensed and qualified healthcare provider. In case of a medical emergency, you should immediately call 911. The hosts do not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement.